Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top five are correct, then make predictions for next week's top five. So let's get right on into it. Last week, I predicted that number one would be Frozen 2, number two would be Ford versus Ferrari, number three would be A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, number four would be 21 Bridges, and number five would be Midway. And after 2 weeks of getting 0 out of 5 of my predictions right, I finally got one where it's a complete 5 out of 5 on a weekend that isn't that easy to predict because we had 3 new releases. One of them, it was pretty obvious, would be number one, but then 2 others that could have been anywhere. So I'm actually pretty proud of this 5 out of 5 win. Number one was, of course, obviously Frozen 2, making $127 million this week on a budget that is mysterious to me right now. I'm going to assume that it's a little higher than the first movie's, like 150, so maybe around 200 million. That seems to be the average for about a big animated film these days. Worldwide, it is already sitting at $350 million, so that's pretty good. Obviously, this is going to be a big successful movie, but one thing to note, other than the fact that it is obviously a higher opening weekend than the first movies, it is the highest opening weekend ever for the Disney Animation Company, not Pixar, just the regular Disney Animation Company, so that's really great for them. This made $7 million over the opening weekend of Toy Story 4 earlier this year, so that was a pretty great achievement for them also. But it's also the third best animated film opening weekend behind Finding Dory's $135 million and Incredibles 2's $182 million. So this is a great achievement for the people behind this film, and though I might not have been the biggest fan of it, obviously there is a bunch of people out there that adore this film, that are huge fans of what they did here and are willing to go see it and probably flock back to the theaters because it has such a great approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So this movie's obviously going to do very fantastically. I doubt that it'll have a big dip, especially since it's going to be Thanksgiving next weekend and a lot of people are probably going to go see this movie again. Number two, we had Ford versus Ferrari making $16 million, adding to a domestic total of $57 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $103 million, which I'm relieved by. I'm so happy that it already crossed over the $100 million threshold worldwide because it still needs to double its $97.6 million budget, so getting to $100 million worldwide is a really great thing for them. Domestically, it is the fourth highest grossing film for the director James Mangold, behind Night and Day, Wolverine, Logan, and it did outgross his other film 3:10 to Yuma by at least $4 million, so that's really great for him. This is going to be known as one of his highest grossing films, despite it not being a comic book movie or anything, so that's pretty good for him if I do say so. Worldwide, though, it is only his 5th highest grossing one, behind all the ones I mentioned, but also in addition Walk the Line, so it's still got a ways to go. I honestly do think it will continue to rise in his own personal filmography ranks as far as the financial gain goes, but this is still really great for him. I'm really hoping that it'll double its $97 million budget while it's still in the top 10, so I can talk about it here on the show. Number three, we have A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, making $13 million on a pretty low budget of around $25 million, so hopefully some worldwide numbers can get in and help boost this up a bit, despite this not really being a bad opening for a budget this low. But also the director, Marielle Heller, this is her highest opening and also already the highest grossing film she has made domestically and worldwide, which has got to be a really great thing for this director to get there at this point. She's the director of Diary of a Teenage Girl and Can You Ever Forgive Me, so the fact that this movie on its opening weekend already outgrossed those, though they were a little bit more in limited release, I think this will really help get her name out there a bit more, which is obviously well deserved because she's a really fantastic director. Number four, we have 21 Bridges, making $9 million. Worldwide, it did add to $12 million, so hey, a little bit of a bump there, but when you compare it to the fact that its budget is $33 million, this is still not that very good. The fact that it opened at number 4 and it did this low doesn't really show that much of a good sign for its future. Maybe it'll hold over pretty well. Maybe on the Thanksgiving weekend more people will go see this than I'm expecting, but honestly, I don't really see this doubling that budget at all. Number 5, we have Midway, making $4.7 million, adding to a domestic total of $43 million, and worldwide it is sitting at $85 million. So $15 million away from getting to $100 million, but it still needs to double its $100 million budget anyway, so it's still not looking good here. And also, as far as Roland Emmerich's personal filmography rankings, if it's outgrossing anything or it's a short amount of money away, honestly, I don't think it's going to be outgrossing any of his other prior films at all at this point. I'm pretty sure it's just kind of stuck exactly where it is right now in between a couple of his smaller, lower grossing films. So there you go. It's probably not going to go anywhere else from there, but hey, it did better than I thought, but it still flopped. Number 6, we have Playing with Fire, making $4.6 million, adding to a domestic total of $31 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at only $36 million, but it is $2 million away from outgrossing She's the Man, the director's current lowest grossing film, and I say that because it probably will definitely get that $2 million to outgross it. Worldwide, it needs $19 million more to outgross She's the Man. I'm not sure if it'll do that since it is starting to slow down a bit, but domestically it will get that 2 million. I can bet you on that. It still hasn't doubled its $29.9 million budget though, so despite the fact that this movie is also doing a little bit better than I expected, it still hasn't even nearly doubled this budget yet. So there you go there. Number 7, we have The Good Liar holding over at the exact same spot, which is pretty funny, making 3.3 million, adding to a domestic total of $11 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 17 million. So hopefully it gets the additional 3 million that it needs to double its $10 million budget. That way we can technically count it as a success. So there's that. At least it has a small audience, but an audience that is slowly getting it where it kind of needs to be. So that's pretty good for this movie, despite it not being as high grossing as a Frozen 2 or Ford versus Ferrari. Number 8, we have Charlie's Angels making 3.1 million, dropping very low. It opened at number 3, I believe, last weekend, and now it's at number 8, which kind of shows the staying power this film has, making in total 13 million domestically, and worldwide it is only sitting at $43 million. I think it will be able to stick around next weekend, but honestly, the fact that it dropped from 3 to 8 doesn't really show that much good promise for it. Number 9, we have Last Christmas making $3 million, adding to a domestic total of $27 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $51 million. So, hey, it's $9 million off from doubling its $30 million budget, but the fact that it's about to leave the top 10 doesn't really paint a good picture for it in total. Hopefully, it does double its budget once it's out of the top 10, though maybe it will do that. I'm not really sure. But similar to what I said about Roland Emmerich's personal filmography rankings with Midway, I don't think Last Christmas is going to progress anymore. I think it's not going to be able to catch up domestically or worldwide to A Simple Favor. So this is currently Paul Feig's lowest grossing film, aside from those two that came out before Bridesmaids that no one really even knew about, so it's kind of hard to count those to begin with. And finally, closing out the video, number 10, Joker, making $2 million, adding to a domestic total of $326 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $1.035 billion. So that's great for this film. It was here for quite a while, like about a month and a half now, and it made over $1 billion. It was one of the highest grossing comic book movies for DC, and it's the highest grossing R-rated film ever. Todd Phillips is going to be making potentially another Joker movie and another kind of villain movie, kind of in the same vein filmmaking as this movie. So I mean, that's pretty cool for him on that one. I'm not really sure how I feel about a sequel, but it's kind of a great compliment as far as how great this film did overall. So hey, pretty good job on their part. But now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I'm going with Frozen 2. Number 2, Knives Out. Number 3, Queen and Slim. Number 4, Ford versus Ferrari. And number 5, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And if you got your predictions right for this week, you're going to get a shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then I'm sorry. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.